introduced us to our new series that we're looking at, which is friendships. And we're looking at key principles that the Bible gives us about friendships, and we'll look at them through stories of friendships in the Bible and how we can apply them to the friendships that we have today and how we can become a better friend. So kind of like looking at the key ingredients of a friendship. Now when I was younger, I used to have like friendship bracelets, used to have necklaces which would have BFF on them, best friends forever, and we'd call each other Bezies. But if you asked me who was the name of my first best friend, couldn't tell you. If you asked me of friends that I had when I was a teenager, I know that they had an impact on my life, but I couldn't tell you their names. Now, I don't see this as a bad thing. I think we have a distorted view of friendships, that when we're a friend with someone that we do have to be BFFs, best friends forever with them. When actually there's some times in which we're just friends for a period of time, and that's okay. Gonna say it again, that's okay. So I have friends in my life which have been there with me for years and years, but I've had friendships that have also just been for a period of time. But even with those friendships that are just for a period of time, I've wanted to make sure that I am the best friend that I could possibly be. So this is what we're looking at, like the key ingredients of what makes us great friends, to create great friendships. No matter like the span of time that we are friends with them, we want to make sure that we are great friends. So the first key ingredients that we are going to look at for friendships is constancy. Now that's a bit of a weird word, but constancy means being loyal, being faithful to a certain person. So we're going to look at what that means to be loyal and faithful within our friendships. There's a book in the Bible called Proverbs. Now this isn't like a normal book where you have a beginning, a middle and end. No. These are basically just full of one sentences. And these one sentences have so much wisdom that we can get from it on so many topics of life. Now in Proverbs chapter 17 verse 17, it has this nugget about friendship. A friend is always loyal, and a brother is born to help in time of need. So we're going to look at a friendship in the Bible which shows loyalty, faithfulness and constancy in abundance. There's this amazing lady called Ruth. In the Old Testament, there's a book all about her, which is like a story. And we can learn so much about loyalty, faithfulness, and constancy with just her relationship that she has with a lady called Naomi. Now I want to set the scene for you before we even meet Ruth. So there's a family that live in Bethlehem, which we know later on that's where Jesus is born. But disaster strikes. Famine comes upon the land, and the father decides that they will move to a place where he knows that there is food. But this is a place which is known for not being godly. So him, his wife, and the 2 sons move to Moab. And the sons grow up there and they marry 2 Moabite ladies. And one of these is called Ruth. But again, disaster strikes. The father dies and both of the sons die. And Naomi, their mother-in-law, decides actually she wants to go back to Bethlehem. And she says to her daughter-in-laws, "You don't need to come with me." And they both say, "No, wherever you go, we will go." So they start the journey. And she turns to them and says, "No, if you can go back to your families, you can have a new life, you'll be able to get married again and have children." They're like, "No, no, no." The second time she asks, one of their daughter-in-laws decides that it's time for her to go home. Whereas Ruth says this, "Don't ask me to leave and turn back. Wherever you go, I will go. Wherever you live, I will live. Your people will be my people, and your God will be my God." It goes on to say that actually Naomi has no response. There was no comeback, there was no kind of groveling for her to actually go back. She realizes that those statements, those sentences, those words were words of loyalty, faithfulness, and constancy. Now, their relationship is amazing. But Ruth going to Bethlehem, she was seen as an outsider, as an outcast, and she was on the fringe of society. She could have easily turned back, yet she stayed. And I think what we can learn from that for our friendships, for us to be great friends, is that we should be there for each and every one of our friends during the good times, during the bad times, during the ugly times, but throughout that, seeing the beautiful. Now, we could easily give up on friendships, and sometimes we do, and I know that I have. But here, God is challenging us through the story of Ruth to say, "Don't ask me to leave and turn back. Wherever you go, I will go. Wherever you live, I will live. Your people will be my people. Your God will be my God." Basically saying, I'm sticking with you. And that's what God is challenging us. Are we going to stick by our mates? Are we going to be loyal to them? Are we going to be faithful to them? Are we going to stand with them during times when it's tough? Are we going to stand with them in times where it's amazing? Are we going to be loyal? And are we going to be faithful? And are we going to show constancy? Now, you know that I believe that God speaks to us through the Bible. And my challenge for you is to read the book of Ruth. And before you read any word, I want you just to pray, "God, will you help me to learn more about being a great friend?" And just read the story of Ruth and see what jumps out at you. Now, Ruth, it's not a long book, it's just 4 chapters. It's 4 pages in my Bible, but it is full of amazing wisdom, and it is a story, and it's an amazing story. So it won't take that much time. But I tell you now, the reason why I challenge you to do this is that actually what I read in the Bible, read in that story, what I get from it will be totally different from what you get from it. Because God wants to speak to us individually. So I know that I will be reading the book of Ruth and will say, God, just speak to me. Tell me how I can be a really good friend by using the example of this amazing woman, Ruth. So I challenge you to read the book of Ruth and see what God wants to say to you.